All right. Good afternoon. This is Penelope Flynn and the remainder of the Blerdsassins Next Door here in the Other Hood. And it is that Black Fae Mother's Day. And so we're doing our Black Fae Mother's Day show. So before we get started, as usual, we like to start with the weather. And Cranston, since you are top center, tell us about the weather in
Fi-
Nashville.
well, finally, after threatening to rain for a week and absolutely nothing, we did get some rain toward the end of last week. And so we're back up above what the rain should have been before. So it helped. It helped cool things down for all the people suffering from allergies. It kind of cleared the air out just a little bit.
Good.
And also next week they're talking about we're going to make it up to 94. So it's pretty good so far.
94, huh?
Hmm.
All right. So, James, how's New York?
New York, it's 73 degrees and sunny.
Wow. You got good weather. No rain in the forecast?
No, we had rain during the week. Um, I guess for maybe 2 or 3 days we had rain, but today is sunny.
Oh, lovely. Otto, how's the weather?
Yeah, we're good too because we got 74 and sunny.
Hmm.
But later this week, we can beat 94 because it's gonna be 105 degrees.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Oh,
okay. That's Texas
That
weather.
not baby.
already?
Yeah,
That's
Wow.
sizzling.
yeah. And how about you, Sonia? It's still nice and cool.
It's actually 53 degrees, 53 degrees and sunny. I see blue skies today, just in time for the start of the, as they call it, the lilac. I was like lilac. That's what
Lilac,
we said, lilac.
lilac festivals. Okay,
um,
all
but
right.
Landlocks
next,
and
but
landlocks.
yeah,
Yeah,
lilac and lilac. No,
yeah.
that's what we said, lilac.
Lilac,
Okay,
Just give it up
lilac.
and stop. Just
Yeah,
stop. Just stop.
they
yeah.
give up. They give up on the
Um,
lilac.
but it's supposed to start raining again on Tuesday, but it's going to stay in the 60s and 70s. So it's not the cold rain we had all last week.
Oh, well, that's good. At least you get nice weather approaching. Well,
Yeah.
okay, so Nikki was here and now she's gone, but she said she's going to come back so we can get the view of what it's like in sunny South Florida. Hopefully, it's sunny South Florida. But today, of course, is Mother's Day. And we celebrate Mother's Day, of course, by venerating our mothers. But Cranston kind of suggested, and I think we all kind of, chimed in last week about doing a Mother's Day film festival. What are our favorite, or I guess most iconic mothers films? And so we, kind of put our heads together a little bit and put together a listing, and we'll go through and discuss our favorite, or at least iconic, we believe, Mother's Day films. And of course, you start out and you think of the kind of Mother's Day film we're discussing. If you keep yourself in mind of Medea, of course, the Greek tragedy where Medea is being cheated on uh, by her husband, Jason. And in order to punish him for said treatment, instead of doing away with herself or harming herself, she does the thing that she knows will cause him the most harm, which is the murder of his children. So this is the kind of
Excuse me though. Excuse
mind.
me. I don't think people think of that though when they think of Mother's Day. Though.
No, they don't. But I'm just saying that that's the kind of thriller, murderous thriller, off the wall kind of mother things with films. The Lisa listing that I mostly curated has that kind of twist to it. So if you want to talk about some other types of Mother's Day films and scrap that list and let's go with something else. And since you were the one who spoke up, Otto, why don't you tell us what it is that you think is a good Mother's Day wholesome, better film than what we just put on the list?
I don't have any psycho. Is what I got. That's what I got. I don't have. Are you kidding? I don't want that corny stuff. I want to see a man dressed as his mother kill other people, random people.
Yeah, I guess the line "the boy's best friend is his mother."
Yeah, and the boy's best boyfriend is his mother. And the boy is his mother.
Yep, yep.
I love
So
that. So I'm not down for that corny stuff, that Sonia or James may like. I like that
Oh
stuff
boy,
that's
here we go.
I like that stuff that turn your world upside down kind of stuff.
okay, so I don't know, like if everybody would agree because I don't disagree because I just think that he was crazy and he was pretending to be his mother, but who's to say his mother was actually the way that he thought she was? I mean, she could have been like a normal person, and only through his filter of insanity did he think of her being that way. So is it truly, fair to say that that was his mother or a close approximation of his mother when all we get is his very deranged view of how she was?
Well, she seemed to be like a nasty bitch, and then he says,
But again, we never
hmm?
met her, right? We only deal with
Yeah,
his.
but he knew her better than anybody else.
But
But
if
he
he
grew
was
up
a
with her.
crazy person, she may not have acted that way at all. It's through the filter of his sanity.
But he
Is
was
how
he
he
was
saw it.
he was he was fil- he was doing what he thought she would do, which was like
Hmm.
stab
Right.
people while they're trying to take a shower.
I mean, which I'm sure he's not said that she ever did that, but that's what's
Maybe she
going
did.
on in his kind of, you know, addled brain,
Maybe she
right?
did.
But
Maybe.
wasn't it the fact that that wasn't his actual mother? Because
Okay,
if
but
I,
you know what? That's a cheat, isn't it? That's a cheat they put in the second one, right?
yeah, but still,
I mean,
the
that's
second one that was his biological mother, which
But
he,
he was always of the opinion that that was his mother.
yeah,
well, who was the skeleton in the basement then? You see,
The mother, I guess, was his aunt or something, whoever it
I
was,
mean,
his
that's the worst.
adopted mother.
He's
I
supposed to
can't
be
remember.
he's supposed to be doing taxidermy. That was the worst taxidermy job I've ever seen. Now you mean to tell me you can do birds and squirrels and all this kind of stuff, but then you got your mother, and that's the best you can do?
She
Least
didn't have any fur or feathers to put over the.
yeah,
Yeah.
and not as complicated. The birds and the other animals have less complicated musculature
You could at
I mean,
least
I
to
don't
do
deal
her
think
with.
the
face right.
musculature. I
You
think
could
it's
at
just a
least do
lack
her
of
face.
skin. I
Yeah,
think
you could
there's
at least do
nothing
her
to
face.
cover the he just let
He
the
he
shrimp.
probably just let her sit, and then when he realized, oh wait, she's gonna spoil, then that's how when he learned taxidermy. He
Oh,
didn't
now
know
No,
it
you learn
until
tax.
he
Oh, now
used the
you learn
word
tax.
spoil with regard to a human being. Oh my lord, he's gonna spoil.
I don't think he had a big old freezer to put her in.
I know,
Now
but
you learn. After
spoil.
you
It's
let
like,
me,
yeah. But what else? What else is she gonna do? She's not gonna freshen up. She's gonna spoil.
she would
yeah, but you're
decompose.
gonna learn.
Spoiling is like you talk about you're gonna eat it. It's
Yeah,
food.
It's still
Spoil,
Well, I use
spoil.
whether it's
Okay.
decomposing,
I use
rotten, spoiled.
Yeah.
I use
It's
spoiled because of the child.
Mm-mm-mm.
no. It's like after all this happened to me, now you're gonna learn taxidermy.
Now
Who
you're
gives a
like,
damn about your squirrels and all this? You didn't.
He probably didn't know. He probably practiced on some squirrels we didn't see, and
well,
then
maybe
went,
that's the
okay, now
thing. That
mom.
maybe he started getting into it when he realized he had a problem,
Yeah.
and then said, "Okay, let me
I mean, to
learn
look like
and get
that,
rid of his
to look like
body."
the way she looked, he knew he had a problem for like 10 years or something, man. Because she was bad. I mean,
Yeah.
ain't no cold cream can
Or
be.
he could have been she could have been his first subject, and he didn't know all the skills then. Who
Mm-hmm.
knows?
Yep.
But anyway, that
But
was his
now,
mother.
you
And
know,
and the famous line is, "Oh, mother, the blood,
okay, this mother blood,
the blood."
not the blood, just his
Oh,
blood,
blood.
blood.
Yeah.
I
So that's my
hate
kind of
that line.
Mother Day movie.
Okay. Okay. Well, Cranston, you're up there. What's one of your contributions to this Mother's Day fair?
Well, the thing that I noticed about it was that the thing in a lot of media, especially in our serial art forms like comics and such, that the motherhood the tropes were it hit me that the people writing these things are really, if we think of the creators are not these people on a mountain somewhere, but they're just really people that would be doing fan fiction if they weren't getting paid by the companies to do it. So
Uh-huh.
that's the first thing about it. The second thing is that it says more about the person creating these images than it does about the people actually that they're writing about.
Mhm.
And I was looking at some of the treatments of the mothers are mostly like I think the probably the well one that was is a Nora Allen, Barry Allen's mother, who is murdered for no other reason than to act as a launching point for his later career, which because it was done by somebody traveling in
Mhm.
time, it was something that would have happened anyway. So her death was a little bit unnecessary. Plus, they framed his father for it, so that was unnecessary, and it kind of screwed up his life. So that's the kind of thing. And so the mothers that they create are generally not central to something. They're just like a plot point to move something
Yeah.
along. And two of the weirdest ones that they do, and because of retcons, they've changed them over the years, is Superman's biological mother, Laura,
Mhm.
and Batman's mother, Martha. And Laura has been depicted, at first, she was just there. It was just that, she might have shed a tear when they put little Kal-El in the rocket ship and blasted him off, but that was it. Over the years, they have tried to like flesh her out a little bit by
Mhm.
making her. She's been, and they never could figure out what she was supposed to be. So they have one version where she was an historian and librarian on Krypton, and then there's another version where she was a member of the Kryptonian astronaut corps before they cut their program out. Then there was another one where she escaped into the Phantom Zone to avoid getting blowed up with Krypton, and then she got out. Then there was one version where she was a member of the Kryptonian military. Then she was a scientist who worked along with Jor-El. And then in one that was really strange, and this one is kind of
Mhm.
had to be taken way out. And I couldn't find a reference to what the exact story was, but it was a story in which she was part of a love triangle with a time traveling Lois Lane, who, because she could never get married to Clark, she was going to seduce and marry Jor-El. I don't know who came
Hey.
up with that one. Yeah, I don't know who came up with that one, but there's one even better than that. So then we go to Batman, and it was a big thing that everybody thought was crazy, and it was crazy. Where that Batman is about to beat Superman to death until he mentions that his mother's name is Martha too, and
Yeah.
I'm saying, okay, never mind. But that Martha Wayne was just she was just his mother, and they ripped the pearls off, which you had pointed out that's not the way they put pearls together,
Yep,
and
that's right.
that was her whole service. So we knew that Thomas Wayne was the physician, blah blah blah, but
Mhm.
we didn't know anything about Martha. So in over the years, she's had those strange kind of things that happened. She was a socialite. She
Mhm.
was a socialite who hung out with bad boys. She was dating a gangster prior to meeting up with Thomas Wayne. And then I guess she became respectable or whatever. And then one of the weirdest ones that they did for her was they had her not only being a socialite and party girl, but she was also a drug addict. She was given to wanton sexual behavior, and she was having an affair with Alfred. But it turns out at the end of the story, you find out that this is just something that a somebody made up in order to mess with Batman later on and stuff. So no, she wasn't really any of those things. But just the idea of that is kind of crazy. So
But don't they touch on that in Pennyworth that there was a potential hookup between Martha and Alfred in Pennyworth?
Yeah, they. I did not see the whole series, so I don't know if they did that. But yeah, that sounds about right. They would do something like that, and you don't know if it's because most of these shows are written by men and or comics or whatever, and they have a different perspective on they don't really understand what motherhood is or what women are, as well as as a woman would.
Yeah. So yeah, very interesting perspective on some of these moms, these iconic moms. Um, in which of any of these, iconic DC films, I mean, do you all think that for my money, of course, Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman, the first one, has the best mom, you know, character, of course, Hippolyta being the mom and
Hmm.
Diana, and I really liked, of course, the way that these characters were put together. They were not one dimensional. She's the head of the Amazon. She's a mom. When Diana wants to win, but she cheats. You know,
Right.
it's like, no, it's not point. Just to win. You're cheating. It's not winning. It's cheating. So that's mom who instills with these values and I thought that was very good. I always liked that, and I
Yeah.
know that the problem we have a lot of the things that we talked about this earlier with other um, issues, the fact that all of these things are created in the time that they were created. So
Hmm.
even when it's obvious that the mom should be a stronger character, more vocal character, a scientist, instead of a socialite, a doctor instead of a socialite, it's not done because the people who are writing it don't think of women in those terms.
Yeah.
It was very
And there was one other one that was kind of strange. And that was in our old friend Star Trek. There's Amanda who was Sarek's wife and Spock's mother, and she
mhm,
was treated as being in whether in the original series or in the '09 movie, that she is supportive, she is understanding, she's
mhm,
terribly patient and everything like that. And they also displayed that in Discovery when we saw the flashbacks with Michael Burnham living with Sarek, that she was supportive. But then the one that was really strange, and you had to say, well, a lot of it was just stuff to move the plot along.
mhm,
It didn't make a lot of sense. But we start out with James Kirk's mother giving birth to him, and so if they pointed out later to see we're so far out, nobody can help us, so we're in a dangerous place. And you had to find out what exactly was her job on the ship, that she could be like 11 months pregnant, and they've got her this far out in space. The second thing they don't explain is that, of course, that James Kirk had an older brother, George. So, question: where was he when they were out on the ship? I mean, who was raising him, and where was he being raised?
mhm,
And that's one of the things they didn't mention they cut out of the thing in the movie when James Kirk is taking the Corvette and he's riding down the street and he passes this kid
mhm,
marching, hitchhiking, whatever, down the road.
mhm,
You never think for a minute, why is the kid out here hitchhiking in the middle of nowhere down the
yeah,
road? And the part they didn't mention that was George, who was also running away from home because he couldn't get along with his stepfather either.
mhm,
Which begs the question: if she was married to the other George and everything, and he was like saintly and sacrificed himself and saved 800 people when he
mhm.
piloted the ship into the collector ship. Why would she go from that guy to this guy who seemed to be a real butthole and stuff? Because that the kids didn't get along with him at all. What was the thought process that went along with that? But they don't
Because she's a
explain it.
woman with two children, and she was older, and who's going to marry you?
Yeah, but even with that though, you got to say, I think that this guy would not be the one. You're better to get somebody who was like a total nebbish or something than this guy who was as
As
wild
long as
aggressive as he was.
he's treating me fine and he's taking all his frustration on the kids, I'm A-okay.
Mm.
So there we go. That's just speaking for the, that particular portion of the canon. So anybody else, any of the roles, mom, that you think are iconic or that jump out at you that they're your favorite or maybe not so much favorite, but just memorable?
Uh, I guess you could say Aliens, the
That's
second
what
Alien.
both of them, because Ripley was the mother of the crew in the first one, trying to
Yeah,
take care of her.
but she
Yeah,
was
I thought of
she
her more of the mother role actually in
but
the second one.
she
Yeah.
was
Mouse.
but she was
Neat, whatever.
more of a
Neat,
mother
neat,
to
neat.
what's the child's name? Newt.
Newt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
the
then at the end she gets into a fight to the death with the alien
and the
queen.
alien's only trying to protect her babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, in a roundabout way, Aliens 2 or Aliens
Hmm.
was a mother's movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as far as good mothers go, I would say maybe Lily Monster.
Oh yeah, she's a good
Okay,
mom.
which I found her to be cute back then
Hmm.
as a 9 and 10 year old. One mother that should have had her kids taken away, if you ask me. Yeah, ACS would have been called on her is June Robinson.
Oh,
You've been taking her kids to space and everything.
No, how is it every time y'all end up on a planet, you let Will go off with Dr. Smith and get into trouble?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and then you have it wasn't exactly a horror movie, but Mommy Dearest.
Yeah, but it's so funny when the book Mommy Dearest and it's adapted into a film, and then when you watch the film of Mommy Dearest, I mean, I guess it may be a cultural thing because I'm watching the film. I go, okay, 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 and it's like, okay, I'm trying to figure out now. Yeah, some of the stuff she did was kind of mean, like the food thing, but
What did you do with
but
the food thing? Because I could
I
deal
think
with a mother like that. But
not just said you had to eat your food. You had to eat this food.
what
Or
about
the
it?
children are starving, and you have to eat your food. You're not getting
What's
this
yeah.
wrong?
food.
What's wrong with the food?
If you have to sit
You know
there
what?
all night, you're gonna have to eat that. Well, that's certain. I got in my house, so you're gonna eat it and be glad.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I don't know what that girl thought. I mean, she was an adopted child, and I guess her understanding was that she was going to be treated like a little princess instead of like a child who had to grow up in a household like normal people. Like the thing with the wire hangers. Okay, no wire hangers ever been beat with a hot wire hanger. It's like that doesn't seem like it'd be nice. But I was beat with a belt, so it's like okay, but still
Everybody
she
got
didn't.
beat with a belt. Everybody
Huh?
got beat. Almost everybody got beat with the belt. Certain
Yeah. And
generations.
so, but
Yeah.
she's saying like, but I mean, the thing is, it's incredible though. Is that she goes this whole movie right about her being beaten with the wire hangers, but never anything else
You ever
except
got beaten by a wire hanger?
yeah, it's not fun.
Well,
Well,
what about
the
the
thing is that there's only so much you could do with a hanger.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
mean,
would
just
take a hanger
it's not
over a
good.
belt.
Yeah, probably. Well, no, because they leave welts. But
Well,
the
you
other
know
thing
what?
is that she
They
wouldn't let her
thin.
win when she was swimming, and she didn't let her win every time that they did swimming races. And I'm kind of like, okay, so what kind of life did this girl expect to have?
What are you complaining
I
about?
know it's like I did not know except the one thing time when she took all the toys and stuff that she had gotten for Christmas and gave them away to less fortunate children, which I thought was kind of cruel because those are her toys. And I think she let her pick out, a few the ones that she liked the most, and then she gave the rest away. But I
it,
understand also too because you get a whole bunch of stuff like that, you're not going to play with it. It's
But
just
you
going
know
to be
what? It's
in
like
there. Yeah.
the way they portrayed it is like Joan Crawford just sat there all day contemplating mean stuff she could do to a child.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that in the movie, the thing that I got is that maybe, like I said, a cultural thing. I think a lot of Black people, a lot of people with immigrant backgrounds, that that's like normal stuff. And for her to be, oh my gosh, is treated so badly. In fact, I would think 90% of the people who saw Mommy Dearest had exactly the same kind of background, if not extremely close. But they felt like they were supposed to say that it was, oh my gosh, untenable, horrible, thing that happened. But most everybody has some of that in their background, and it wasn't all that. And also the fact that she was, a Hollywood star in the, twilight of her years, still trying to keep things going. And that, so we didn't have any money, but she's got all these jewels and stuff like that, and she won't get rid of them because she wants to wear her jewels. Yeah, because if she doesn't wear said jewels and go out in public and make it look like she still has money, she's not going to get any money because that's the way the business works. And for her to act as if she's so naive as to how things work, I thought that was just ridiculous. And so, and
Especially
Mommy
when she was
Dearest,
an actor herself.
yeah, yeah, and in Mommy Dearest, at the final closing, she said, "Oh yeah, now I'm gonna sue, write my book, and I'm gonna tell everybody how you were." It's like, oh my God, how petty. I hope that you got your money,
Did
and
she make a lot of money off that book?
Yeah.
I'm sure she probably did, because it said that she left the money to the other children, and for her and the other boy that came at the same time she did, that she didn't leave them anything, because basically, you grew up in the household, you had all the benefits and stuff, so they didn't get a whole anything. They're just
The only part of Mommy Dearest that I found horrific is when Faye Dunaway volunteered to substitute for her daughter on the soap opera.
That was funny. That was funny.
Did anybody actually see that on
My mom said she watched it and kind of went, "Say what?"
Yeah, if you go to YouTube, you could find the episode.
Yeah.
How bad
an
is it?
episode of the soap opera where the daughter was on it, and so she substituted
The
for
daughter was sick, and so that her daughter wouldn't lose the role, Faye Dunaway, well, not Faye Dunaway, Joan Crawford
Mhm.
stepped in for her daughter.
How
It
many
convinced the producers to let her fill in for her daughters.
Yeah, well, it's probably kind of funny to people.
Yeah, how many shows?
That, everybody probably knew. Okay, how funny, that she's gonna come in and she's gonna do the role.
No, they didn't tell the audience until
Yeah, but I'm just
today
saying,
the role being played
yeah,
by.
right
Yeah.
when it happens. Yeah, I mean that's the part people thought was very funny.
How many shows
And
did she do?
kind of kitschy.
I don't remember how
wouldn't have thought
many
anything of
episodes,
it.
but they fired her anyway. So
Because
So
she
how
was
did
a good actress.
How did it look?
well,
Probably
when you
crazy.
see a 60-something plus woman playing a 17-year-old girl
Call it
or
crazy.
whatever the age, your brain takes a little bit of a loop.
Man,
Yeah,
it's
and
soap
on
opera.
YouTube you only get the audio of
Yeah.
the episodes.
Oh, you don't get
Yeah,
the
it's probably
video.
funny as all get out.
That would have been.
It
I would have
reminds me
loved
of
to see that.
remember
But
that
she
film that was, I think it was Betty Davis or maybe it was Joan Crawford, one of the two of them, and that was the thing she wanted to get this role in a movie, and she thought that she was still like this young starlet. I think it's Betty Davis, and then she saw herself on screen, and it was just terrible because she wanted to be this ingenue, and I guess she was like in her 40s, and the people were like, "No, we wanted you for the role of the mother," and she got all pissy about it. It was so funny. I mean, it was just funny because she's thinking she can do this role, and it just looks awful. And when she finally sees it and sees how bad it is, oh, she really, she goes on an alcoholic binge or something. It was something else. But yeah, same kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I thought those whoever fired her at that soap opera, I think they was stupid because I would have kept them on forever. That was like crazy.
Yeah. Oh, they
Oh.
fired the daughter, I think, because she was just doing it as a substitute.
Mhm.
But the
I would've
daughter
fired the daughter.
fired.
Yeah, I would hire Joan to do the
I
role.
say, you know why? Because so many people just come to my show to watch just to see that craziness.
Yeah, that's insane.
That would have been
But
funny.
I think it was also around the same time Joan was saving Pepsi Cola, so because she was an extremely shrewd businesswoman, she saved
Yeah.
Pepsi Cola. So
I just love
But
that
she
scene.
didn't
That's
have time
my
to do a soap
favorite
opera?
scene.
I would
That's
love
one
to
of
see that.
That's one of my favorite scenes in the entire film, when she goes to the board meeting and they're being so patronizing to her about, oh, we're going to give you this, and oh, you're looking at this and this. Oh, and she said, well, this is my company. This is my company. And so
And the thing,
everybody's
the
like,
thing is
oh,
though,
no, we thought you was a stupid bubblehead. Oh,
The other-
no.
The other thing is that people don't remember, I guess, who may not be movie aficionados, that Joan was a sex plot for a long time.
Early in her career, yeah.
Yeah. Let's forget about that. So they forget about that part. So it's like people don't think of like nobody think of their mother as being sexy, right? It's like, oh man, your mother had got it going on. And they, really? No.
Or you really don't want to unless you can invest in a lot of therapy later on.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, nobody thinking about that at all. But just like in Back to the Future, like he goes back and his mother's trying to come on to him. It's like that is really cringy.
Yeah, very cringy. And I don't know why anybody would kind of put that.
Why would anybody think of a scene like that?
Yeah,
right?
Because that's not because children rarely think of their parents in those terms. So and usually the parent who's most strict on morals tended to, I know all the tricks already because I did them.
Yeah, I'm not trying to think of my mother trying to get down with somebody. No.
Yeah, but I think that it's funny that they put those kind of crazy, twists. Then that people were not like throw up in my popcorn now. Thanks.
But just like James found Lily Monster sexy.
Yep, because she said cute. He did not say sexy.
He twisted. Well, I said cute. You know.
He's
using an idiom for cute. That's what.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said that with his little 9-year-old self looking at the Lily Monster.
Yeah, he said she was cute.
Yeah, she was cute.
She was cute. Nobody thought Lily Monster was cute, but James. That's only.
Okay.
Listen, I think the Wicked Witch of the West was cute too back then.
Okay, well there we go.
Man,
anyhow, just moving on. Moving on. Some of our other mother movies that people had discussed, saying that they were the iconic, of course, this Rosemary's Baby. Although she was pregnant for the vast majority of the film, and then only the last portion was she actually a mom. The next scene was she doing her maternal thing. But again, what she does to try to protect this unborn child or soon to be born child, that she finds out later is not exactly the child that she thought it was, but still, focusing on that mom and everything that she tried to do, to get through this pregnancy and to, have this kid.
But so, and even at the end, she becomes protective of that child.
That's right. Even though this baby is like
a demon's baby,
monster. Yeah, but still, it's her baby, And when I say that, I want to just take a little sidestep and add one of the issues that we discussed was Unbreakable. How the mother, Mr. Glass, and his mom was knowledgeable, at least to some extent, I believe, about how her son was. But yet, she is the one who put him out in the world.
Well, you think that she
told him, here, stay at home, watch TV, stay where it's safe. But she was the one who pushed him out into the world.
Do you think
a threat?
You think she thought that she would? You think that she knew that he was going to be evil?
No, I don't think she knew he was going to be evil. But I think that she wanted to put him out there to have as much of a regular life as he could. But again, because of all that pain and stuff he's going through, I think he's damaged, and that there was, reason not to get someone like that to push them out into this very bump and shove world, So I think to some degree that, this child who's a monster that the mother loves,
But isn't that what mother's supposed to do?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm just saying that that's a thing, that just reminded me of that when we talked about the issue in Rosemary's Baby. We have this child that is a terror, a demon, like maybe like we touched on when we started talking about these films. What is the name of Bad Seed, where the mother sees this little girl and she's a very bad little girl, but she always is like, oh mommy, I love you so much. Oh, I didn't do it, mommy. And she has to know this little girl's doing all sorts of stuff. And ultimately she did. She did know, and she does know, at the end, when the mom tries to commit suicide, when she realizes that this, that all these things now, it's not adding up, this is not adding up. So again, but she loves this child and tries to care for her, and all the way to the end, up to the end. This is a very bad little girl.
She's still the mother.
Yeah, but she's still her mother. It's so, in that sense, these kind of films where you have these moms who love their children, but have to acknowledge at some point that they probably are not the nicest or best people, but
Well,
still that
like
love. Yeah,
Grendel and
Grendel's
Beowulf.
mother, yeah, and Beowulf, I mean, an actual monster, and yeah, she was, she loved her son. She loved Grendel. I thought that the most recent iteration they did of the animated version with the Angelina Jolie looking Grendel's mother, that I thought it was so well done because those nuances, regarding that relationship with the mom, and that who is able to be almost a siren with regard to Beowulf, and that she is a mother. She's just, and when Grendel is killed, well, she goes on a mother's rampage, you know, and to wreak bloody havoc, on those who have killed her son. So yeah, another motherhood issue.
Mother protection.
Yeah, protective moms or
A
vengeful moms.
vengeful mother.
Yeah,
Like I
and
think Angelina Jolie was in two films like that, right? So she was the voice of the mother in Beowulf, right?
mhm.
And then she was in that movie, The Changeling. Remember that movie?
Yeah, what a sad movie where they basically took her kid and gave her some other kids. Here's your kid. So
Yeah, the
it's
kid looked
not my
exactly like
kid.
your child.
It's not my child. Yep, this is your child. It's your child now. And the little boy can say, yes, I am. Until he got to the end, the little boy said, well, he wasn't our child. You know, but, what's he going to do? You have a house to live in, food to
I
eat, place
mean,
to go,
the kid looks exactly like the child that she
He
was
did not look
lost
like
or
her child.
kidnapped or whatever.
No, he didn't look like her child.
I thought he
I mean,
did.
those people looked at and said, close enough. But she's like, this is not my son? Sure it is. You just forgot what he looked like. No, no, my son was like, this is not my son. But
Mhm.
they kept insisting that this is her son.
We want to stop.
And yeah, and they stopped looking for him. And then to find out, of course, like all these boys have been abducted and put in some camp, or so. I don't know what they were doing with them exactly, but they were trying to escape, and when they tried to escape, that her son was one of the children was killed. But in the meantime, she was given some other kid that they just happened to have on hand. So here you go, stop complaining. That's what it was.
See,
Here's a kid, this is your new kid, stop complaining.
that's the kind of twisted Mother's Day story I like to watch.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
See, I don't.
Anybody else got a favorite, or one where you think they missed the mark in motherhood stories?
Leave it to Beaver.
Okay.
I always thought that Buffy's mom was playing a little too dumb to not know all her daughter was going through. And then they
Yeah.
revealed later in the episodes, yeah, she knew. She just let Buffy do what she had to do.
Yeah. But nice, because what it does, like you said, it shows, or at least as we are
That,
going through the story, that she is a benign neglect, right?
mhm.
And is that
Or
the way?
thinking she's supportive and
Hmm.
letting Buffy have her life.
Was she
Um,
neglectful though?
no,
I
it
mean, I
turned
would
out that she knew everything. She believed Buffy, which is why she moved to um when
the
she
Hellmouth
moved from to Hellmouth when she
to
moved
the
from LA.
Hellmouth. Yes,
Yeah.
right.
But
Great move, Mom.
she knew that if Buffy knew she knew, she wouldn't do what she had to do.
That makes no sense at all, but
If
okay.
Buffy knew that her mom knew, she would be more careful and not do the things she needed to do to take care of the great evil in the world. So her
Oh,
mom saw it as being supportive, let my daughter live her life and the destiny she was born to fulfill.
okay. I have no idea why they think that worked.
Yeah, that sounds
It's
crazy.
it's
That,
yeah, it's one of
That
those
sounds
Whedonisms that people never quite understood.
yeah, that sounds
that's
like a
kind of like
cover
they did
story.
it and then had to figure out how to explain that away, how to
Yeah,
rationalize
it
it.
sounds like
Yeah, can we go down to the corner and come back up on the avenue again?
Yeah,
Ah,
it's a, yeah,
that sound like a cover story for bad writing. That's what it is.
yeah. It's
It's
definitely the
Whedonism.
actress that she didn't know all along. I mean, she could have known throughout the story. I guess what they wanted to do is say this between a rock and a hard place. That if throughout the story she actually knew and did nothing, is that worse than her not knowing and doing nothing? You
Cover
know,
story. Yeah, it's cover story, man.
I mean, I would think that as far as the mom's concerned, that look, I ain't got no secret extra powers. I know that this is a thing that you've got. I know you're going to do your thing. I'm going to be in constant contact with Giles. It lets me know, everything's, doing what it's supposed to do. I'll know that I'm not supposed to let certain people into our home
Well, her
because
daughter's going out at
my
night.
child,
Her daughter
Hmm?
going out at night, though.
Yeah. And
you
she didn't
know
know.
that I know that you
Yeah, come
know.
on,
Yeah, I'm staying overnight at my friend Willow's house,
come on, all the
for the
time.
entire school
Come on,
year.
nah. Mm-mm.
You know, I don't know. I mean, I think that instead it would have made more sense to be that your mom, your dad, whoever gets hooked into the system, like somebody like Giles, who's always explaining them what's going on, who's doing what. These are the rules. This is how you keep your home safe. This is how you keep her safe when she is at home, so other people can't be coming in there and harming her. Don't you think that would have made more sense?
And then they gave a mysterious daughter that they messed with her brain. Oh yeah, I've always had your baby sister.
Come on, man.
Come
I
It,
on.
really,
The
it,
whole
it,
I
point of
absolutely,
it was just the two of them against the world.
it
I
would have been
absolutely hated
better
that
if
so
it
much.
would have been better if Buffy would have just put on some Clark Kent glasses. And,
Yep, there you go. And then the vampires was just, well, who is she? Is she a new girl? I don't know who that is.
She's the key.
Oh my gosh.
boy, aren't
Yeah.
they supposed to be rebooting that?
Yes, they are without the Whedon influence this time. So let's see what they get.
I mean, I gotta say, the Buffy show in and of itself, I didn't dislike it. I like Buffy. I watched the whole thing from beginning to end.
It's
But the
real.
problem we have is that you got a person who I think at the beginning of their career was more restrained. But the longer Joss Whedon's career became, the more people kissed his ass, and the less uh, those careful he was about not just his personal um, issues. He became less careful about what he put out there because people would not tell him the truth that it sucked because they were afraid for their jobs because it became like tyrannical and you'd end up losing your job. If you said that's not a good storyline, then
Yeah.
you find yourself on a breadline somewhere.
Well, when his wife came out and said he's not the feminist you think he is.
And nobody thought he was no feminist when he had Buffy raped on the show, man. That was just like, nope.
Yeah, that's like what the and the thing I felt so sad, for the actor James Marsters because he said he kept saying he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it. He said he just, pushed back so much saying he just did not want to do that. And he said they came down on him, like an anvil, hammer on an anvil, saying that all these people are here and this is their jobs and you're going to make them, lose money because you won't do this. And he said he was just lambasted because he did not want to do that scene. And I mean, many, many years ago that I read the article, but he said that at that time he had never seen it. He would not watch it. He said that he was just, mortified that it just required, even though he made it clear he did not want to do it. He did not want to do it. And they just really just kind of pushed because so it's amazing to me that a scene that was not necessary that they pushed that scene into the script, and because I don't see why it was a necessary scene at all.
It was designed to embarrass James because James had stood out previously against Joss.
Well, they did a good job because
He did
they
revenge
did
things. I mean, same
hurt
thing
that
he
guy.
did to Charisma Carpenter. It was just like for a
Yeah.
whole season.
Yeah,
I mean, this guy, and I think the mother on Buffy was written that way or not written that way because he didn't have any respect for women,
no,
and so he just like she's just there. I mean, he
yeah,
did it on purpose.
yeah. And I mean, I think it was earlier we're talking about the fact of these, like Francis saying, women mothers being placed in there as props. Just as a you are a plot device. To
Mm-hmm.
keep things moving or to get to elicit some sort of emotional response to things. So
That's why most of the superheroes on Marvel's side are orphans because they
all
just don't want to
superheroes,
deal
most
with.
of them are, most
They
every
don't.
superhero, Marvel and DC, are
Yeah,
orphans.
or because they don't want them to have to deal with parents,
Mhm.
aunts, and uncles. You don't have to listen to.
But everyone, I think that's the whole point. Almost all superheroes are orphans,
Mm-hmm.
if not in the most definitive sense of both parents have died, but where they have been like Wonder Woman, who is cast out, Thor also cast out. They're cut off from family, and kind of make your own way. So in every sense, when these people become superheroes, they are alienated, you know,
I think
and
the
made.
next generation coming up are more family connected, are becoming more family connected. The next generation of superheroes. So
Except
we'll
for
see how that
Wakanda.
change.
Wakanda didn't cut their. I mean, Black Panther wasn't cut off from his mother.
Well, I mean, only his father. Remember, because his father did die, and now his mother,
His mother died when
he
Shuri took
predeceased
over.
her, but he predeceased her. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but yeah, it is more like you said, a communal thing with Black Panther. That it's not the same as most of these other action superhero people are cut off from.
Same thing with Submariner, isn't it?
I think so. Submariner and who's the other one? Uh, Daredevil, right?
I think his mother and
Yeah,
father died.
His mom's gone.
His mother
Yeah.
and
but
then his
His,
father.
but then again, you have to look at it like this. Back then, with Marvel and DC, when the comics were more kids oriented,
Mm,
kids really didn't want to get a comic and reading about some superhero's parents.
No,
You
that's
know,
no,
true.
you had the time kids were reading comics to get the hell away from their parents.
Yeah, damn. I don't want to pick up no comic book and see my mother in there telling people what. I'm like,
yeah, but I
God
think
damn
also
it!
it's
What is
because then the decisions they make are their own, and they have to take full responsibility, for the things that they do. They may have learned from their parents, learned from their mentors, but when actions are taken, then they are responsible all the time. They are accountable all the time for their own actions.
Yeah.
And I think it's a thing now that, children are not learning the issues of accountability, especially, in our current political situation, issues of accountability just washed away clean.
So what do you
No
mean? The
one.
mother, the parents, or the kids?
I know the kids have to be accountable in these. That's what they taught. I think. Look at these superheroes that you're supposed to be accountable, but nowadays that those issues of accountability, just like there's nothing that reinforces that you should be accountable for your own actions.
Yeah, that was something back then.
Hmm.
When the comics were kids oriented.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was also that ethics, the morals, accountability.
Hmm.
Drink your milk, eat your vegetables.
Hmm.
Once comics, in my opinion, started to become more adult oriented,
Hmm.
you start to lose that accountability. It was about me, about the superhero and he or she's flaws as
Yeah.
a superhero.
I
Well, I
think
think
that's a big
that was,
problem too,
but I
because what we have is that everything is not for everybody, and I think it's simple enough to say these are adult, mature, issues that are covered in this comic book that you don't even know the first thing about because you're a kid. So they
Right.
should not be in comic books for children. I think that's the biggest problem I find is that everyone wants to say, okay, it's a comic book. Comic books are for children. No, only certain issues in comic books are for children. Other issues,
Well,
if you want to grow it up, take it to another level, then certainly it should be like immature. These are not for children. This is for people who already got this stuff under their belt and have an understanding of how relationships work. And now you can step up to this different level and explore things through your comic books that otherwise you may not in day to day. It may help you even to uh, be able to visualize how to deal with certain problems that you never thought of because you don't have the constraints within a comic book or a book that you have in real life.
well, I think
And,
that was just basically marketing because what they were doing was the people who read comic books in the 60s when they were in their preteens were now adults who still read comic books. So
Mhm.
they had to do something to make them come back to it. And
Right.
it says, well, they have more disposable income than these kids do. And that's why we're going to try to do that. So the younger kids became an afterthought, but the older kids who are now in their 20s and 30s and 40s, that's
Mhm.
who they were trying to appeal to.
And I think
yeah,
that's not a problem as long as you're saying that, this is, Superman, immature.
and then you have to look at it like this. Back in the day, okay, Marvel, what distinguished Marvel from DC was the fact that Marvel was to readers was more real. Okay, Daredevil lived in Hell's Kitchen. Spider Man lived in Queens.
Hmm.
Okay, the Avengers had the mansion in Manhattan. Meanwhile, with DC, you had Smallville, Metropolis,
Hmm.
Gotham.
Did they make it
So
more relatable?
yeah, they made it more relatable, but unfortunately, that kind of opened the door to what Cranston was saying, that those readers that grew up reading Marvel and DC as they got older and they had the more disposable income, that's when the comic book industry really started to go in that
Yeah,
whole direction. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah.
I mean, even with the
It's like,
first,
yeah. It's that
yeah,
people what they did. It's like okay, because we knew we were old, comic book readers. We say okay, Silver Age, comic book readers. All right, since I know what happened when I was a kid, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to buy me a copy to keep safe, buy me
hmm
another copy to read. And then if I'm
hmm
really feeling myself, I'm buying another copy to sell. So generally, when
hmm
you're buying comic books, instead of buying one, you're buying three.
and
Hmm.
that's how the industry fell through the
Yep,
floor back in the early
yep,
'90s. Okay, a
yep.
lot of people seem to forget and don't know the comic book industry in the early '90s went into the toilet
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was ropes.
because like you said, people were buying two and three and four
Hmm.
copies of the Death of Superman,
Hmm.
thinking that was gonna put their child through college.
Right.
That's so stupid. I mean, but when I bought a comic book back in the day when I was a kid, after I finished reading it or I was
Hmm.
halfway done, I rolled it up, put it in the back of my pocket, and
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it. I didn't
yeah.
treat it like it was gold.
yeah.
Yeah, in my comic book collection, I have a copy of Sergeant Fury, okay, from back then that
Hmm.
is absolutely worthless because it fell into a bucket of paint.
Oh
Ooh.
Why do
no!
you still have it?
It's I still have it because
You
it's
still
still
need it?
it was part of the comics I had from back then, and I guess for nostalgic reasons, I pull it out and I say, "Oh, what could have
Every now
been?
and then,
Mm.
Yeah, what could? Oh, the pain,
yeah.
the pain."
Okay, Dr. Smith.
Yes. This
Yeah.
this could have been a new Tesla if I,
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
If only, right? So,
yes,
but also your films and stuff that we were talking about our Mother's Day mother films, and I know one that we talked about, and maybe there's another thing with the Sixth Sense that we have the one mother who is trying to raise this child by herself. These weird things are happening, and she's trying, you know, as mom. She's seeing some things she doesn't quite understand, but she's still always, you know, in support of her little boy.
She want to fight
And
the bullies that pick on
yeah,
her.
yeah, she's trying, you know. And then you have this other mother with the little girl ghost that shows up at the house in his tent, and he has to stop himself and instead of running to ask her, what is it you want to say to me? And realizes, you know, he goes to her home and hands over, you know, this little box with this, you know, video in it showing that her mother poisoned her to death because she had that Munchausen by proxy, that she liked being the center of attention, and people tell her how sad things were, how wonderful she was a mother, how everything was just, you know, on her shoulders. And they're saying how, you know, now the second daughter is getting sick. So the first daughter, this ghost, is there to expose this mom so she doesn't kill her sister. So I mean, so within this film, you've got these two different types of mothers. One who is, you know, focused on protection of her child, and the other that is using these children, as props for their own aggrandizement. So, you know, a very frightening portion of that film. I remember when we first saw it, you know, this shock, you know, of this mother doing this thing. And she says, you better eat all of it, you know. And she knew that she was putting household cleaner, something in this child's food.
Mm-hmm.
So, and everybody, you know, they're watching this video, you know, and they get the video, gets it to the dad, and he's playing it out there and he's watching it. And the mother's out in the other room with, you know, the people, and all the family that's come there for this funeral is watching this video, seeing what she has done. She is not even, you know, in the room seeing what they're doing. And everyone turns around and looks at her like, you monster, you know? And she's just kind of like, what, you know? What? So I thought that was just, to me, wow, what a very powerful scene, because we always give mothers this this pass as if all mothers are nurturing and, you
Yeah,
know, and wow, that was just such
that's
a
why mothers. That's why mothers are awarded custody of children, right? In divorce
it's a
proceedings and stuff.
presumption. The presumption
More
is
like
not
what is the
true.
percentage? Is it very high, right?
Yeah, but it's again, it's a presumption that may not be true, and in fact, probably it's not true. And it's just
Yeah.
that women are raised to believe that they are responsible for their children. But, you know, you start out early with people, you know, buying you baby dolls, which I always hated. You know, I like fashion dolls and clothes. I did not want baby dolls.
No, you just fashion dolls, are just babies that are well dressed. That's all.
No, they're not.
That's all they are.
Fashion dolls are
You're
some
still
very,
being
very.
groomed. You're
No,
still
they're
being
not.
groomed.
No, fashion dolls, you're groomed to buy clothes for yourself and look good and have your stuff together. Baby dolls, you know, you're concentrating on, you know, coddling, nurture. You don't coddle and nurture your Barbies. You know, you give them houses and cars, you know, and and huge wardrobes and different types of
Right.
jobs and
You
stuff.
know what
That's
it's
what
called?
Barbies are
You know what that's
for.
called? Your daughter.
Yeah.
That's all it's called. So it's like you don't think you're still being groomed?
I think that if I mean, everybody to some extent is, but I'm going to be groomed. I'm certainly going to be groomed into, you know, believing that I should have a house and a car and a high flying job making lots of money and a whole bunch of really cool clothes. You're going to groom me to believe that my life should be a certain way, that that's the way I would like to have my life groomed to be, you know.
And
But
then,
if the other side
and
is
then
that,
pass that down to your daughter.
and if the other side is that you give me these dolls that drinking wet,
They
you
drink,
know,
right?
and
They
I gotta,
eat.
yeah,
They poop. They
change their
also poop.
diapers, yeah, and the
Yeah.
poop, and to change their diapers and stuff like that. I think, yeah, that's a very different thing. It's a very, very different thing.
They
It's
look
what it is
different. They also look
to
different too.
play.
They
Yeah,
chubby. They
yeah, like
chubby and
little
stuff.
babies. It's like you're
Yeah.
getting used to this,
Yeah.
you know, holding babies, feeding babies, and stuff like that. And you don't do that when you play with your Barbies, you know, except maybe, you know, if you have a kitchen and the ones that come like with the turkeys in the oven and stuff in the kitchen, and you're preparing with these candelabras on your table and stuff, you know, it's how
Mhm.
you're how your tables and stuff is going to look when you become an adult and have your home the way that you want it. It's going to look like this, and I mean, in Barbie land, it's very, very late until you get Barbies that have actual babies.
Do they
That's
still sell baby dolls?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, not this Christmas, but
Not just you get one instead of three. I know,
Yeah.
but
Oh, God.
they're still grooming people, right? They're still grooming women.
Definitely, it's a form of grooming, but I mean, I don't see a problem with it
You
because
don't?
with the baby dolls, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But the Barbie dolls and stuff like
No,
that,
not
no,
the
not
Barbie doll,
really.
but the baby dolls.
I
Yeah,
had
I do.
both. I was
Yeah.
given both at the time so that I could both facets of womanhood. You
Well, I
have
got,
your
you know what?
career and your
Younger,
fashion.
yeah, my younger siblings got baby dolls. I did not get baby dolls. I mean, the most baby of baby dolls I ever got was, I mean, I had to be like 4 years old, 3 years old. Chatty Cathy. Even Chatty Cathy was not really a baby. They would.
What was she?
She was like a walking doll. She was like standing up doll. I guess toddler level doll. Chatty Cathy dolls. Still. I don't think we had too many drinking wet dolls.
Betsy
My
Wetsy.
yeah, that's what others like that. I mean, ours the
Baby
things.
alive.
Yeah, Baby Alive. That's what Nikki had all those.
I
The
had I had both. I had both
But
I
Nikki
had
also got
I
grooming.
had yeah, I had
Nikki kept was the big.
Barbie, I
Mm-hmm.
had Baby Alive and Bionic Woman.
No, no
Nikki had Baby
pissy,
wow.
Go Bye
no,
Bye. We
Okay.
didn't
no
get the Baby Go
pissy
Bye Bye. We had the doll with the car.
pissy
And Nikki
Priscilla.
had Trumpet, the doll that served the tea. Nikki got all sorts of very cool dolls that did stuff. She had very cool
But you
toys.
know what though? Why don't have
Mhm.
Why didn't they have GI Joes that did stuff like if they had a GI Joe that can crawl and walk like Baby Alive or something that'd be too cool.
Not gonna make any changes today, all right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Any nausea vomiting?
What was that?
That's somebody with Cranston, I believe.
Oh,
Can you imagine if you had a GI Joe who do that thing that
who could
crawl?
crawl
They
and
do on
walk?
their shoulder, their elbows crawl, and then like
Yeah,
crawl their hands and knees like they're going through obstacle courses. That would be very cool.
yeah,
Well,
but
I
they didn't
mean,
do that.
you did have talking GI Joe.
Yeah, yeah. And
All he
Keith
was doing
was
was
the
give
GI Joe with a
directions.
kung fu grip. Remember that one?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but that was phony though because it couldn't move by itself. You had to move it, and Baby Alive, you
Yeah,
could
they
put it
crawl
down and
now.
start crawling. Yeah,
Yeah.
The later versions, yeah.
Well, I thought the things cool that the ones that had the cars, so the baby go bye bye, you put her in a car and it would drive around. I thought that was really cute. I like that a lot. I like that one. And
yeah,
Can't
but
believe I can't believe we didn't talk about Sarah Connor.
oh, I did like the Sarah Connor Chronicles. I did, but I like
why
the
was that
ones on
show canceled?
television.
I like because Fox couldn't afford it.
I like that show a lot. Sarah Connor
I
Chronicles.
liked how she turned from bubbly airhead to protective, fierce protector and
hmm
teach her son how to here, son, here's how you do it.
Yeah, I think it showed that Sarah Connor was always capable of that. But say, blessed are those from whom little is expected, for they will not disappoint.
Mhm.
And that's the kind of life that many people live. That nothing was expected, so you never put yourself out there to do anything.
Well,
And she
Sarah
was
Connor,
capable,
nothing was
obviously, quite
expected.
a bit.
Nothing was expected for Sarah Connor.
Not at
In
first.
her previous life, when
In the
at the
very first movie,
beginning,
she was
turning it,
she was just a party girl.
at the very beginning, I don't know what she was. As a matter of
I don't think
fact,
she was a party girl. I think
I think
she
she's
worked
just
as
a,
a yeah.
I don't remember.
She was
She,
just a wait. She was a server in a
yeah,
restaurant that
Yeah, she
had
was a waitress.
But
yeah,
they find her in the nightclub.
yeah.
yeah, because I think she
Yeah,
was
but
working
everybody
there
went to
or
clubs. I mean,
something. They were
yeah,
out with their
you can't
friends,
be a waitress and go to club.
or she's out with her
No, that
friends.
was the intention. That was the implication they tried to give her that she was the least likely to become this kick-ass mom.
Yeah, but I didn't see her like a party girl. I saw her as just like just like out with her friends kind
Yeah,
of
I
thing.
mean, the
I,
first Sarah Connor that he killed, I think
yeah,
they were the party girls.
yeah, she would have more like a party girl. The first one
Yeah,
that they killed, and he just going by Sarah Connors. This one, just killing all the Sarah Connors, which I thought was very, very scary. Yeah.
You know, there's an anecdote that goes, not an anecdote. What do they call it? A story that goes in line with the casting of the
Mm-hmm.
Terminator. And I guess some people think it's funny now, but Arnold Schwarzenegger was saying, well, you know, he got the role, but the first person they wanted for the role was O.J. Simpson,
Yeah.
and they couldn't consider O.J. Simpson as a killing machine. Ha
Well,
ha ha
that wasn't his perception back then.
ha ha
Yeah,
ha.
because he
He
was. I
was
mean,
Mr.
yeah,
Everybody's buddy back then.
yeah, running through airports and
Actually,
rehearsing.
he would have been perfect for that role, kind of, because like you wouldn't assume that a person like that would be going around killing people.
Mm-hmm.
Or worse, it might have given him a higher profile, so maybe he wouldn't have focused in on the things that he did later. So you never know.
Like the what you call the movies, the what you call it Naked Gun movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that Naked Gun was in Nordberg. I thought it was hilarious. But I think also that I'm of the mind that just because certain people say that you did a thing don't mean you did a thing. So I'm not you know I'm not on that train.
Okay, so while we're on the subject, back in the day, did anybody find it kind of suspicious with Ben Cartwright that he had like 3 wives and they all died?
Five.
Well, did he have three? Did he have three
Each
separate mothers?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
each
Yeah.
boy had their own
That's the
had a
mom.
different mom.
Damn.
I guess I'm kind of tired of you.
He said, "Yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
first
wait,
I want you to
Horse's
give birth to
mom
my
died in
son, and I'm gonna kill
childbirth.
your ass."
right.
Yeah.
I can't remember how Adam's mom died.
I think she. I,
She died giving birth to an adult man. That's
No,
what she
Yeah.
did.
That was the excuse for Haas.
that was Hoss's mother.
yeah.
Was it Tronell Roberts and what the dad? They're like not far in age. They're very close in age.
Yeah.
So the ones the father and the son, they're like very close in age.
Another another thing.
Like they do. What's the other? Oh, the other mother one. Oh, what is it called? Just when Anna and I had Manchurian Candidate, right?
Yeah.
That's a heck of a mother film.
Oh yeah.
Her son.
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, that's on Turner Classic Movies.
Yeah.
Mother's Day movies. Manchurian
Yeah.
Candidate.
And again, I thought about it because they were also very close in age. And she's playing his mom, but they're like very close in age, like a few years apart. The Angela Lansbury playing.
Yeah, she does a great job as a mother, man.
Yeah, and Lawrence Harvey. Yeah.
Yeah, Lawrence,
Yeah.
they're very close in age. So I thought
But you
that
don't
was
think that when you see it, though.
no, because she does that role to death.
She comes across as a like
She
an
sure
older
does.
mother. Yeah.
And she does a great job in that role. I mean, she is just scary.
I think she was with Angela Lansbury. The way she looked, she was able to pull it off. Even though
Mm-hmm.
she was younger
Mm-hmm.
than she was. That's kind of like with Agnes Moorehead. She was able to make herself look older
Mm-hmm.
or younger. I mean, you look at with her in the Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah.
She was way younger than the part she played.
Mhm.
But let me ask people this question, or let me ask you something. God bless you, my father would say. Number one, you ever wonder what happened to, unless they mention it in the movie, you ever wonder what happened to Casper's mother?
No.
Okay, and number two, did anybody have an issue with Casper? Because after a while, I'm like, boy, this is a dead child.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah,
Think
and
about
he's
it.
kind of funny. He's a dead child, but he doesn't look like a child.
Yeah.
Matt Groening brought that up. Says that's a really strange thing and stuff about this is the ghost of the little dead boy that's and he's haunting people.
And his head is all round and big.
Yeah, but he's always wanted to. He's so young. He's still looking for friendship. Trying to establish friendships.
Yeah,
It's-
but it's not played off as sad. And
No,
but it
they just
is.
kind of like just like Casper and the Ghost.
Yeah,
But
they never mentioned his mother or anything like that.
yeah, and
You know?
also with the what is the thing called the Smurfs? I read about them when I was young. They say that those are supposed to be like these little, elf brownies, whatever you want to call them, but they're like what happens, blue babies, babies who die in childbirth.
Really? Is that why they blue?
Yep.
Now that's really dark.
Yeah,
what
it's
kind of
French.
perverted shit is
It
that?
is French, and that's what it is. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, man, get out of here with that.
Mhm. I'm just saying.
How the hell is that?
Yeah, I read about it and said, "Wow, that is rather dark," but that is a thing. I said,
Wow.
and I'll give it. The time is getting short. We're going to start to wrap up in a bit, but any other mother-related films that you think are noteworthy for Mother's Day?
There was one, and this was actually an episode of, and you probably will remember this, an episode of the X-Files.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the one, I think the name of it was Mother, and it was about these people that were doing the usual X-Files stuff out somewhere, but the mother was somehow incapacitated, and they kept her like in like strapped to this board underneath the
Oh my
house.
God, that was so freaked out. It's like
Yeah.
people were like the town, everybody had like the names of like the Mayberry people
Mm-hmm.
because Phil Lamar was the sheriff. I remember that forever.
Yeah.
And Mulder and Scully go out there, and the little children are playing baseball, and under home plate, and there's like this blood comes up, and there's this body of an infant with it's like deformed infant, and and this so they send the X-Files people, they figure out what this is. Like you said, they find out, yeah, that they have this mom, and she's got like her husband and on the children and stuff, but it's like the product of inbreeding, like this
Mm-hmm.
severe inbreeding, which is why they're the way they are. In fact, it's so scary because the inbreeding is so severe that the sheriff comes there, and he's got the gun, he's getting ready to get rid of these people, shoot them up, blah blah blah, and it does nothing to them because their little heads are so thick and stuff. The gun doesn't penetrate the skull, or what. The bullet penetrates the skull. It's scary. And those things, they were scary, and they went, they did away with the sheriff and his wife. It was very frightening. That was the scary one.
Yeah.
That was really scary, especially since at the end they didn't catch them all.
Yeah, they just moved on to some and set up shop somewhere else.
Yeah, it was scary.
And put up here, what about that awful movie called Mother? Mother, remember that movie?
Oh, I don't know if anybody saw that thing with Jennifer Lawrence, the movie Mother, where she starts out, she's got like a Javier Bardem is her husband or whatever, and he's like abusive. They're going like through this house, and all this crazy stuff happening as they're moving through the house. And at the end, we're trying to figure out, so what was this about anyway? And we had to actually read. My friend Karen and I went to see it together. We had to go read something to figure out what the hell we just saw. And it's, it was about Mother Earth and exploitation of the Earth. And I thought that makes no sense based on what it was that happened in this film. I mean, no rational sense.
What year did it come out?
I don't know, about 10 years ago, maybe? Do you think that's correct?
It wasn't quite that long ago. It's like about around 18 and 19, something like that. It came out, and there was other movie.
Let me see.
And there was another movie, Ma, with
Ma,
Olivia Spencer.
Yeah, that movie. But she wasn't anybody's real mother, though, right?
She acted like she was treated and acted like the mother of those kids.
Yeah, did she act? But did she have any children though?
No, but she was manipulating other people's children to get revenge on their parents. So
right,
Which is what mothers
2017.
do. So.
The movie Mother is 2017.
2017. So 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Should never been made.
Probably not. I don't. The thing is, it's one thing to watch a film and to be like a little bit off. You both have ideas. Different people have ideas, but I've never been so off on a film in my life. I say I had no idea this is what they were trying to do. So the director really did a terrible job because it was just too many people had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, it's
And I
horrible.
think it shouldn't be a trick, for your audience to try to figure out what they're watching.
Right. Well, you can't forget The Exorcist either, though.
Oh yeah, yeah, okay. That has a mom in it,
Yeah, and she did a
and
lot. She did a lot. She went through a lot for her daughter.
yeah,
Mhm.
she did. 'Cause she
Her
know what
daughter
the heck was
kicked, and
going
her
on.
daughter kicked her ass. I just kicked
Yeah,
her.
she did her a bolo punch.
Yeah, and
And yeah, it was.
put the dresser behind the door so she could do more to her.
Yeah, yeah, that was scary. I mean, I don't know, what we want to. The Exorcist, yeah, has a mom who did go through a lot trying to find out the answer to this.
Right,
Went
try to
to
find the
the
answer.
doctors, to everywhere,
Everything, and the
everywhere.
stupid doctors don't have any answers. And
Yeah,
they doing MRIs and all this kind of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
here's one. Here's one. I was watching it the other day. Gorgo. Anybody ever see that?
I heard of. I
Oh
think I
yeah.
have. Yeah.
I don't
Why is
know.
that
Yeah,
movie?
you probably saw it on late night TV or maybe Creature Features.
So
It
what is
blew
this?
it. No, well, it. I remember when I saw it, it blew my mind because we thought that Gorgo, the Godzilla looking creature,
Mm-hmm,
was the monster. But then
mm-hmm.
we find out near the end of the movie that no, that he was the child, and his mother
Okay.
came looking for him.
Yeah.
Yikes. Okay, there we go. What he went like a Boy Scout trip or something and got lost?
Nah, they what was he was captured,
Ah,
okay, by humans as that's what we do. Stupidly, we tend to mess with animals until we get either eaten or our face bit off.
yeah.
And they took Gorgo back. They took him to London and set him up in a carnival amusement park. And it's yes, see the great Gorgo. Then the next thing you know, there's there's a creature bigger than him,
Mm-hmm.
and it weighed. Was it the Thames River? And it was knocking down Big Ben
Wow.
and crushing
Oh, I gotta look
England.
that up.
Huh?
I gotta look that up. This sounds like a good Mother's Day film.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And it wasn't until the end that the powers that be figured out.
Oh,
No, that's his mom. His
yeah. She came
mom
out.
came looking for him.
So where did they pick this thing up from? Was it out of the ocean or in a?
I think it was I think it was some I can't even remember the beginning. It might have been a tropical island or something because the King brothers that produced the movie, they wanted to copy King Kong. Okay, but they didn't use stop motion.
Okay.
They like Godzilla. They used the stunt person in a suit, but they also, I guess, the early practical effects was hydraulics to make
Mm-hmm.
the eyes and the lips move
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. And yeah, it was his mom came looking for him, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess I assume after that it was no, we're not going to do that again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
until they did.
Yeah.
Until they
And
did Jurassic Park. And
and
by the
one
way,
other
they're doing another Jurassic Park.
and one other mother, The Devil in the Dark, from the first season of Star Trek original series.
Oh,
Oh,
The Hoarder, yeah.
yeah.
I
Go
forgot
on.
about her.
I don't remember that one.
The big lump of silicon that kept the one that I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer.
Yeah, and what was it? The eggs was
Right.
silicon. Yeah,
Yeah.
And
Oh, okay.
the
All right.
miners
Okay.
kept destroying
They
the
thought that they were miners going out getting the stuff, and instead it was eggs.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
yeah, because they would be minding this stuff, and the next day they look around and mom's coming and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, oh, Yeah, but there was actually a part two to that in the paperback series.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it was a part two where the Hoarders they became part of the Federation.
Hmm.
Yeah, they became part of the Federation. Uh, the Federation equipped them with their own ship, and they became part of Starfleet.
Huh. Well, that's interesting.
hmm In fact, I think I could be wrong because it's been so long since I read that book that it has something to do with a Dyson spear too.
Mm.
Like a second Dyson spear was discovered, and the Federation sent the Hoarders to investigate it.
Hmm. You never know. All right. Well, anybody else? Sonia, Otto, Nikki, Grants, anybody got any other mother related films that you all think are iconic for this Mother's Day?
They're not. It's not the mother. It's more focused on the family. But Elastigirl and The Incredibles, when nobody could get the rights to the Fantastic Four, we had The
Mm-hmm.
Incredibles,
Mm-hmm.
and she was the one who was stretched. It actually showed what it was like to be a mother and a superhero at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and
And
how
he
she was always
stretched thin.
stretched thin.
There we go.
Cute, yeah.
And it was the little girl who felt invisible because she was a teenager.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right. Anybody else? Because we're getting there to that moment. We're actually past that moment. So, anybody else got any other holidays, celebrations, and things that we want to observe this coming week and such? I know I have a couple for myself. Of course, this coming Saturday was Saturday, Friday is Evan's birthday. So, a happy birthday to Evan coming up on the 16th. On the 17th, I am leaving town. I am going to Tallahassee, where I will celebrate the graduation of my niece Chloe. And then we will be going to the abolitionist ball that weekend and basically celebrating the 20th of May celebration when they're reading the Emancipation Proclamation in Tallahassee because that's where it was done in Florida. So we're, in Texas, it was June 19th. In Florida, it was May 20th. So I'm heading out for the May 20th celebration in this coming week. So all you Floridians and stuff going to be there for the May 20th. That's where I'll be.
Happy belated birthday to my friend Sean, who's going through some rough times right now. This is her first Mother's Day without her mom. So I know it's particular, and she was her mom's caretaker. So I know it's particularly rough for her. Um, a happy birthday to my near birthday twin from elementary school, Errol Phipps. I don't know if he's listening because he is a genre fan, but I don't know if he's paying attention. And a happy birthday and for my other sister, my sister-in-law of heart, Jenna, who's on the 15th. And I know I'm missing somebody's birthday between those two, the 12th and the 15th, but I can't remember, so I apologize now.
All right. Anybody else? Anyone to mention honorably or otherwise? No. I don't know if we got any holidays other than, of course, today being Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. And today, Black Fae Day. So I know here they have the Renaissance Fair in Waxahachie. So there's people going to be going down to the Renaissance Fair today. And, I have my Renaissance Fair, out there to be one to said event. So hope everybody has a wonderful remainder of their weekend. I hope that you are going to have a very productive week. We'll be back again here in the Otherhood next week in the intervening period. Take the opportunity to head over to YouTube to check out, all of our previous shows. Do that liking and subscribing and,
Sharing.
those things, all that.
Commenting.
Do all those things. Do all those things. So we'll be back again next week. Take care of yourselves And have a good afternoon.
Bye.
I say now, what are you doing now? Y'all can say bye. We're really gonna go. Goodbye. Because James, I see you're like looking like you're like, "Grr," like you're like grimacing, growling.
No, I also look like that.
Oh, okay, all right.
Kind of like Ferris Bueller said, the movie's over. What are y'all still doing here?